this is kind of a blockbuster weekend in college football, but Brett's on the Lewis Automotive Hotline right now. So let's get to one of those blockbuster games. Brett, what's up? How are you?
I'm good. You're right. This is a massive, fun weekend in college football. We know a couple of weeks ago we'd be happy with one or two. It feels like we've got a whole list of big games.
So you get to watch Trinidad Chambliss again, right? Is this this is Wally Pip all over again, or at least it feels like it.
It does. Again, we're talking about a D2 guy who didn't get to school until May, wasn't around in spring practice, and all of a sudden he's leading a team. And, I was wondering after we saw him fail against Arkansas, if Simmons had been fully healthy, and it was obvious to us he wasn't, and Lane said, well, Simmons is our guy, then if you're Chambliss and you haven't played 4 games, you'd be tempted to say in this new world of college sports, hey, you know what, I'm just going to take this to the house and I'm going to start for somebody else next year. And I'm not going to waste my only D1 year sitting behind Simmons. And then it looks like he might have a chance to make his mark. So we'll see. It's a very good defense he's going to be going up against.
Speaking of good defenses, this Indiana-Iowa game. I mean, there's so many good games this weekend. How do you see this? It's kind of a contrasting styles. It's going to be kind of like the one we'll get into with LSU Ole Miss. It seems like LSU more the defensive team now, which I wouldn't have thought that the last couple years, and Ole Miss the offensive team. But let's first go Indiana-Iowa. Can Iowa score enough to keep up with Indiana?
Well, I don't know. About halftime of that game last week when Indiana was playing Illinois, knowing Indiana was coming to Iowa City next week, I thought, you know what, this would be good if they get a big win against a top 10 team and they come in a little satisfied and happy and fat next week. And then I watched the second half, and I'm like, do they ever stop scoring? Can they just put it in park for a while? Iowa doesn't lose a lot at Kinnick Stadium. They will give Indiana a different look. They can score some points, unlike a few weeks ago. We'll find out. If Indiana, I don't think, is going anywhere, at least from being in relevance in that conference. And a win on the road after a top 10 win would kind of put them in that tier behind the Ohio States and Michigans in that conference. And who knows, maybe a chance to get back. So sneakily, I think Iowa can hang with them. But if Indiana's half as good as they were last week, that's a game that they will probably win.
I need to get back to this Tigers-Rebels game with you. Who has the better defense here? Because LSU's defense looks like it's been pretty stout for the first 4 games. I don't think they've faced a great offense, though, and that's got to be part of it. What did you make from watching Ole Miss's defense against Arkansas?
Well, obviously Talon had his way in the first half, and they made some adjustments and certainly looked better in the second. I think Ole Miss misses some of the guys that they had up front, whether it was Pegues or Walter Nolan. I like Daugherty, the linebacker. I think they've got a couple of decent corners. The one thing, though, I think that if we still don't know completely about their defense after this game, it's because LSU's had a hard time running the football. And I don't know if Nussmeier's 100% either. I think he looked physically a little bit better. They don't have quite the running backs they've had in years past, and that's made them somewhat one-dimensional, and they have not been as good. And let's face it, LSU's wins, if you would have told me before the year they're going to win at Clemson and they're going to really shut down Florida, I would have thought that would have been pretty impressive. I don't know if it's quite as impressive now, having watched Clemson and Florida since those wins. So we'll see. I would probably lean Ole Miss in this game. I just like them at home. I like what I think they can do against LSU's offense, but this is one of the truly fun games this week because of not only the rivalry, but kind of where this game is going to shake out for the rest of the season for either one of these teams.
Last year, one of the best games in college football was Oregon-Penn State. They're kind of returning the favor. Oregon's going to head to Happy Valley to take on Penn State. And is this a chance for Jimmy Franklin to kind of shake off some of the haters about can't win the big game? You give them any chance, especially because Penn State will be at home this Saturday?
Well, you're 1,000% right on James Franklin, and I've been kind of hard on him, but I don't think. I was on this train years ago, and I think it's almost suffocating at times for Penn State because they've done everything right except kind of handle some of these games. I believe they're 4-20 against top 10 teams under James Franklin, and since their last win against a top 10 team in the Big Ten, it was I think December of 2016. That's been a while. The one thing I think is fascinating, though, in this game, if you're James Franklin and you're trying to get a win, obviously playing at home helps. But the one game that they look back on Oregon last year when they weren't Oregon was when they were facing Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. The defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, is now the defensive coordinator at Penn State, allegedly making over $3 million. So when you're trying to win big games, you go grab the defensive coordinator and you pay him and say, do what you did against Oregon then for us and give us a chance to get a win. The scary part for Penn State is that they've just been kind of inching in this capacity in the last couple of years. It's kind of their turn, their time. I'm still not convinced they can get it done, but I think they put a lot of eggs in their basket for this year, whether it's returnees, whether it's coordinators, to try and win games like this.
What do you think will happen with Hawkins, a quarterback for Oklahoma, Mateer out for at least 4 weeks with the hand injury and having surgery? So that means Hawkins would start against Kent State, Texas. He had a miserable game against Texas last year, and South Carolina. And then I know I'm assuming you're on the call for Oklahoma, Tennessee, which I see is on the Touchdown Radio schedule. So he'd be back for that game. But between now and then, can Oklahoma, hold serve? Because they had something going for those first 4 weeks.
Well, they sure did, and obviously Mateer did as well. I think hold serve has to be the goal. I don't think you need to exceed that. I think whether it's the bye week or the non-conference game, just gain a little bit of momentum. We'll see what happens in the Texas game. Certainly, I think it's a winnable one. And it's a shame because I think they had put themselves in position maybe to take not only a step forward this year from last, but maybe 2 or 3. And losing Mateer doesn't help. Obviously, the backup has had some experience, which doesn't hurt either. But the schedule is at least a little bit friendly for a few weeks with the hope that Mateer can get back. I'm not convinced he can get back as soon as they say, but I know they will be rooting for him to do just that.
I guess the other big one, Alabama, Georgia, man, what a win that would be for Alabama. I don't know. I'm going to have to take Georgia in this one, but kind of give me your percent chance. Alabama always has a chance. How do you see that one going?
I might be off on my number, so I'm doing this off the top of my head, so give me a little bit of leeway. I think Kirby Smart has lost 6 games to Alabama, and against everybody else, I think he's lost like 13. So almost, half of the losses against other teams he's taken just Alabama. We know that was against Saban. The interesting part to me is that it's not a bigger point spread. I think it's right in the area of 3.5, which would lean towards just the advantage you get from playing at home. Simpson's played better, and I don't know what his completion percentage is for Alabama, but it's damn near 90%, which I find really fascinating. So Alabama's got a shot, but this to me is very similar to that James Franklin talk. If you're Kirby, you want to beat Alabama. If you're Penn State, you want to win a big game. And you feel like you have that opportunity. Both of them do so at home. I don't know if this will be a pretty game, but if someone wants to see Georgia fall, they're going to have to beat them. I don't think Georgia's going to beat themselves, but Alabama might be a little bit better than we thought when they looked so bad in week 1 against Florida State.
Speaking of teams beating themselves, it seems like that's what Arkansas has done the last 2 weeks. Any chance this is a one-score game going into the fourth quarter? Arkansas has a chance for redemption. How do you? Give these Arkansas fans, give us something positive going into this Arkansas Notre Dame game.
Make us feel good, bro.
Okay, you're putting it on my shoulders. All right, I'll rise to the task. It is a defense that's just given up way too many yards and points for Notre Dame. I would always think Notre Dame would have some Big Ten qualities to them, where defense is ahead of offense. That's not the case. You hope that Arkansas can find a way, if indeed it is a close game, and I think it could be, to win close games. I think the close losses have become a thing. And obviously, whether it's the fumbles or just not executing, to me it was the 12 men on the field out of a timeout, and it was the giving up the long run at the end of the game to the backup quarterback that were so frustrating to me as the fumble. Something has to happen to get Arkansas over the hump. There was a game last year where my team won a game with 5 first downs, and they were outgained by 200 yards. Mm-hmm. And after the game, the coach was asked, how did you win that game with 5 first downs? Sam's kind of getting the opposite. How did you lose that game when you were in position to win? My coach stepped up last year, and he quoted Albert Einstein, and he said, The things that can be counted don't count, and the things that can't be counted do. And what he meant was, it doesn't matter how high you can jump, how fast you can run, how strong you are. We can count those. Those don't matter at critical times. And what matters at critical times is your discipline and your want to. We can't measure that, but that's what matters at key moments. And those key moments have not worked. Fumbles and penalties. Something has to change in a big moment to make that not a thing.
You don't always win your first bet. That's why MyBookie has you covered. Use our code HOGS, H-O-G-S, and your first bet up to $500 is fully covered. If your pick doesn't hit, you get it right back with our Bet Back bonus. Go to mybookie.ag and use the code HOGS to claim your Bet Back bonus. MyBookie's where bettors win together, because bragging's good, but cashing in is better. And your first bet is fully covered. Use our code HOGS.
Must opt in during the bet to use the Bet Back bonus.